Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the spring of the 1938 turn of World War II, and tensions are starting to rise as the Axis are starting to make their moves towards war. As you can see, Germany has annexed Austria, which raises global tension, so British production goes up because of that. Other than that, they put out a tactical bomber and they leased another light tank to Nationalist Spain. And Nationalist Spain has taken Madrid, and so the only Republican territory left is that territory right there. So it looks like the next turn will probably decide the outcome of the Spanish Civil War. The Germans have put out a pretty substantial submarine force in the Atlantic. Let's see, Russia, it put another light tank in Leningrad, getting ready for the Finnish War, and it leased infantry to Republican Spain as they're preparing for their last stand. And that was it for Russia. No border skirmishes this term because they can't. They signed a non-aggression pact with Japan last term. And speaking of Japan, it took Zhejiang, another coastal territory, and also causing the Americans to reduce another point of oil to Japan, so Japan's only getting a $1 bonus now because of American oil embargoes. And it's bought two more SNLF Marines, obviously getting ready for future amphibious landings somewhere. And other than that, just move some ships around, building up a fleet in the south, and fleet in the east, and fleet in the west, getting ready for the big show with the Western Allies. Manchuria, just building up its forces for probably an eventual invasion of China. Oh, and CCP didn't do anything. They just stayed put. They didn't have. They decided to save their $2 to buy something else next turn. Buy something other than militia next turn. See, the British continuing to build up their army in South Africa, and starting to build up a army in the home island, put out artillery, consolidating its transport, so it's got 4 transports sitting there. The Pac Brits continuing to build their forces in India, and Anzac doing the same thing, continuing to build their ground forces. Transports heading back after dropping off those units in Egypt. France put out its battleship. It was actually the first unit that France has put on the board this game. Italy, it leased an infantry to Nationalist Spain. and then use the rest of its money to continue paying off its debt on its battleship. It still doesn't have it paid off yet. America, it put out its first unit of the game. It finished its construction on its carrier, and they put it in the Pacific. So as you can see, America has quite the fleet built up in the Pacific, and then it's showing that it's gonna be sending more. And then KMT, they attacked a warlord this turn. They moved into Yunnan? Yeah, they moved into Yunnan because the next turn the Burma Road is capable of being opened. So the way we play it is the KMT actually has to control the territory in order to open it. If a warlord controls it, then the road is closed, because whatever our reading on it is whatever supplies the British would send through the warlord would take it for themselves. So to ensure the road is open next turn, KMT moved into Yunnan and defeated the warlord forces there, and to guarantee the road will be open next turn. Pretty bloody fight. The warlords had 2 infantry and 4 militia, and KMT went in with 3 mountain troops and 9 regular infantry, and as you can see there's only 4 left. They're going to get 3 back and wounded, but KMT lost a good portion of its troops doing it. And with Japan gobbling up more of the coast, it's KMT's in a pretty precarious position right now. And that was the turn. Fairly quick because not a lot of fighting going on. So the Axis forces are starting to make their moves, gearing up for the big war. So we'll come back with the fall of 1938 and we'll see what happens then. Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the fall of the 1938 turn of World War II. And Germany has annexed the Sudetenland and completed its battleship, so that drove British production up. And the Spanish Civil War is over, the Nationalists have won, so that's a victory point for the fascists, or Axis, faction. And then Germany, they unlocked mechanized infantry and medium tanks this turn. So Germany bought mechanized and a medium tank, and then two airborne troops, and along with their battleship. Russia didn't do much. They just bought an infantry and a light tank, put both in Leningrad. Japan invaded and took Nanking, and that eliminated their last dollar of their last peacetime bonus. So Japan is no longer getting aid from America. America's frozen all oil assets to Japan. Then Japan completed their carrier, which drove American and Far East Command, I think, production up. And then England, they completed their cruiser and then just continued building ground troops. They put two infantry in London, or an infantry in London, one in Liverpool. Put an artillery in South Africa. And then the FEC, they leased an artillery to KMT China, and then put out an infantry. And then Anzac put out another artillery, and then its transport is almost made it back. France finished their cruiser and then put out another infantry in Paris. Italy finished the debt on their battleship and then poured the rest of their money into the debt on the cruiser. They have $2 left that they owe on that before they can start moving it up the tracker. America, they finished off the debt they owed on their cruiser, and then bought another transport and put it in the Atlantic. So the Americans now have 4 transports sitting in the Atlantic. And KMT, they bought an infantry. So not a lot happened this turn, other than I think the most notable things was the Germans and Japanese putting out capital ships, which consequently scared the appropriate allied nations, and then Germany annexing another territory, annexing the Sudetenland. And other than that, just gearing up for the war. Many of you know this version doesn't have a set start date for when World War II happens. It's completely up to the Axis players when they want to kick it off. But yeah, it's good for the Axis players to lay low and not rock the boat for the first couple turns, but at the same time they can't wait too long to kick it off because all their victory points are in other people's territories. You know, Germany's, a lot of their victory points are in Russia, and Japan, a lot of their victory points are in British and Dutch held territories, and so on and so forth. So they have to kick it off eventually. They can't wait too long, otherwise they're not going to have enough time. And the longer they wait, the stronger the Allies get. So it's a balancing act for the Axis. But anyways, that concludes the 1938 year. Next turn is the spring of 1939, and we'll see you then. Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the the spring of 1939 turn of World War II. And pretty quick turn because the only people at war right now is Japan and China. All the other wars have either been concluded or haven't started yet. So starting with Germany. Germany just built ground troops. I think a couple infantry, motorized, a mechanized, and then a medium tank, and an artillery, I believe. So just ground troops. It's finished all of its ship production and just getting ready for the big show. Russia, same thing. Can't lease to anybody. Can't border skirmish with anybody. So just bought ground troops, getting ready for the big show. The one action we did have is with Japan. Japan and Manchuria did a attack on China. The Manchuria invaded Peking. It was a warlord territory, so that didn't actually hurt KMT or CCP. And then Japan, in conjunction, invaded the southern Chinese territory. I want to say it was Guangxi or something like that. That territory right there. Also a warlord territory. So doesn't hurt KMT or CCP production, but it does boost Japanese and Manchurian production. And all those territories are will generate bonus income for Japan once they're at war with a major power. And then England, more of the same. Built another artillery, and South Africa built a tactical bomber. And that's it for the Euro Brits. The Pac Brits, they leased a artillery to KMT and then bought an infantry. And Anzac bought a light tank. I don't remember if I've ever explained this, but if you're wondering what that ship in the British Channel is, it's a monitor, part of the riverboats expansion from HPG. Also where you get these patrol boat acrylics from, because it adds river mechanics. You can put patrol boats on rivers, and that'll you can pair them with infantry, and it'll take away that -1 attack penalty for crossing the river, because it acts like those patrol boats are covering the infantry as they're crossing the river. And then, as you can see, Romania starts with one as well. Let's see, France, it put out its first tank of the series. Put out a light tank, and for light tanks I'm using the World War I Renault tank molds. Because crazy as it sounds, the French did have World War I Renaults in service when World War II kicked off. So I'm using that sculpt for French light tanks. Italy just moved up its battleship on the production chart and paid off some more of its debt on the cruiser. Oh, the Japanese, they also started a Yamato class battleship, a super battleship. That ability unlocked for the Japanese this turn. Let's see, then America, it moved up its cruiser on the production chart, and then put out 2 artillery, and they're in DC, so starting to build up its army. And then KMT, they bought an infantry, I believe. And then Japan's only casualty for taking that southern Chinese territory was 1 Marine that they managed to roll a wounded for, so they'll get that back. I believe that was it for the turn. Not much happened. The most exciting thing was Japan's invasion of the south and Manchuria's invasion of the north. that's pretty much it. So we'll come back with the fall of 1939. We'll see you then.